Okay, I just want to make this quick video before I go on to, once we get in the middle, how to go to the front. Okay, I just want to talk quickly about orbit, okay? Because I think it's a very misunderstood concept. So orbit. You'll see someone like Gerd Cantor. I like using, because he's one of my favorite throwers. He's also one of the most successful throwers in history. And you look at like someone, if you just look at like really like good throwers, maybe except Daniel Stahl, because his orbit's kind of funky. It doesn't really, I guess it does. Never mind. Yeah, okay. Sorry, personal biases. Oh yeah, sorry. Orbit. I think the biggest thing misunderstood about orbit is that the low point you set out of the back and the high point you set in the middle should be the same, that you set the same low point and high point you should have in the front of the ring. That is not necessarily the case. Because if you look at something like hammer, okay? Hammer, you see how they will gradually have a bigger orbit on each turn if you look at like a good hammer thrower. Okay, if you look, it's safe, just look at like an 80+ meter hammer thrower. They all do this. They will all have a gradual, okay, not all of them. Look at someone like Koji Morifushi. For those of you who don't know, he threw 84, like high 84s meters. He's Olympic and world champ. Just one of the greatest, like top 3 greatest technicians in hammer, in my opinion. Okay, but if you look at someone like that, or someone like Paul Fajdek, you'll see how they'll have kind of a flat first turn. Okay, and then as they gradually go, their orbit, their low point will increasingly get lower, higher, and then lower, higher, and then lower, higher. Okay? This is not because they're forcing it down or they're forcing it up. It's just physics. So the faster you move and accelerate the implement, the wider orbit it's going to get. Okay? These are the reasons. And the reason you're getting a flutter out of your disc is probably not necessarily because your disc is going off the orbit. I mean, it is in some cases, like for a lot of beginners. This is like a good like middle, intermediate to like advanced tip. So like you'll know, you see people, they get the flutter in the disc, okay? They look like a dying goose. This is caused by them throwing it off the orbit, okay? Or it just slips off your hand. That could also be it. Actually, generally that doesn't create the flutter, okay? So, I mean, the flutter is caused by just throwing it off your, throwing your implement off the orbit, okay? There's a misconception though. The reason, a lot of the times that I see watching videos that happens is because people try and force and try and keep the same orbit that they had out of the back. They don't let it increase or decrease, okay? But if you look at someone like Gerd Cantor, now if like someone that didn't really know what they're talking about, not to say that I do, okay? But if you look at someone like Gerd Cantor, if you don't know who he is, he threw 73-38, has like 16 medals, Olympic, world champ, just so many throws over 70 meters. One of the best just throwers ever, okay? When he threw, so like he would start like this and just be like kind of like this, but then when he got into the middle, okay, his orbit would dramatically change. So like his low point would be like here, and then it would go like here. So it would be like way up above his head, okay? And then it'd be like way down here, okay? And then he would release it really up. His hand would usually be out of frame in a lot of videos, okay? And then people would be like, oh, he's scooping it, or he's throwing it off at orbit. If you look at his releases, there's no flutter, okay? The reason why, because he's accelerating the implement, okay? When you accelerate it, the more acceleration and the more power you put on it, the more the more exaggerated your orbit will be, okay? So it's okay. I just really want to make this point. It's okay if your discus goes like here and then goes up, okay? As long as you have a clean release. Because if you're, and you'll know it, okay? Because, I mean, it will just come out cleanly. Because if your arm drops and there's a flutter, that means you either lost tension in your throw, or you're actively just moving your arm, okay? Because if you actively, so say my low point out of the back's like here, okay? If I actually tried to keep that through the entire throw, there's not a lot of power, and there's not a lot of torque, and that's what would be throwing off the orbit. Unless, I mean, like, it would be a clean orbit if you just didn't accelerate and didn't try and throw far, I guess. But who wants to do that? Losers. So, this is really, like, a big thing that just came up in my mind that I wanted to explain. Okay? But yeah, I think that's like a very misunderstood concept about the orbit. You can really see in discus. It applies to shot put, it applies to hammer. I mean, not really javelin because they don't really rotate, really. But, yeah, okay. But next video, I will continue on with the actual movements of the throw.